guys, good evening. It's been a really long time since we've hung out and done a stream on a Friday or a Saturday night. So I've been really looking forward to it. I was kind of waiting until certain things settled down and I was able to get my medication right, and I'm feeling pretty good today, although so many other things are up in the air. So today, or actually yesterday really, I got a box of watercolors from Blick. Most of it was me reordering stuff that I use all the time in my daily driver palette, and just needed to kind of re-up it. So let me move those over here. This is my very ratty, very mangled, very gross daily driver palette, but as you guys can see, it gets a lot of use, so I don't feel bad about it looking kind of worse for wear. Sometimes that happens when you paint a lot. And you guys can also see I use a lot of convenience colors because while I don't mind mixing colors, there's just some colors I really like having handy. And when you review watercolors, you end up finding a lot of colors you love. I guess it's a justification for me buying all sorts of different pretty watercolors. So today I wanted to unbox my Blick goodies with you guys. I wanted to swatch the colors for you, and I'm using a Blick Premier block just to kind of demonstrate some of my favorite colors. And I'm also going to, there are a few new ones I picked up, although this is mostly being able to, replenish my dwindling supplies. But I have my swatch book here that I started in 2019. It's sorted by color and by, well, it's sorted by brand and then by color. Mostly to just make sure that I don't have any dupes. It's getting to the point where I basically need a second one because for PWC, these are just like Canson XL watercolor pages cut in half and then crammed in here to just kind of make room for it. So if I've got anything new, I want to swatch it in this. And I already know I have one new one because I went to David's Art Supply today to pick up some of the colors I couldn't find on Blick. So I could not find Naphthalide Maroon, and I know they sell it. I just could not find it, and I also needed to replenish my Holbein Hooker's Green. And, some of the chatters in the paint box have really sold me on Daniel Smith, or on Potter's Pink. So I picked up a tube of Daniel Smith Potter's Pink to try out. So these are what we definitely know we're going to be dealing with. And when I'm painting, I don't paint with just one brand. I paint with a variety of brands. It's basically whoever makes the colors I like. So this is going to be kind of a who's who of the most popular watercolors in my palette. And some of these I have replenished several times. So we've got some Core. We've got some Winsor Newton, which I don't actually love. Hey, Bugsy, good evening. I don't actually love Winsor Newton as much as I used to, but I am. Why did they pack this in with that? Winsor & Newton, don't love it as much as I used to because I do think it's kind of overpriced, especially compared to some other brands that are available. Yes, so for colors that I'm not super familiar, I re-upped my Lunar Black because I am basically out of Lunar Black. But I also wanted to try out, because I've been doing a lot of super granulating colors, I wanted to try out some of the other lunar colors. So I'm trying to get organized. I had a busy day today. How have you guys been? Van Dyke Brown, Rose Madder Genuine, Payne's Gray, Neutral Tint. See, they'll double stack them in here. Oh, that's weird. Look. I guess they repackaged it. Look at that. So this must be one of the newer tubes, and maybe this is one of the older ones, because this is what I remember it looking like. But I use a lot of naphthalide maroon because I really like using it as a shadow color or a base for a shadow color when it comes to skin tones. So I'm gonna go ahead and sort all the lunar colors off on their own. I've been getting really into super granulating colors lately, so I'd like to do a video or stream maybe on just super granulating colors at some point because they're pretty cool. And then we've got our Winsor Newton, our single core. I do love core, it's just I wasn't out of other cores. We'll set those aside over there. And we will prepare the pad. So get rid of these boxes. What? Congratulations! Your first webcomic. That's a big step. Story timeline. So that's a really great way to get started with making your first comic or your first webcomic, is kind of hashing it out as an outline first and then kind of figuring it. It kind of depends from then on, like how you work as a writer, whether you like to plot everything out and you know exactly where everything's going to go, or if you kind of like to do it chapter by chapter or some kind of mix. Like the way I do it is I have like the overarching story timeline, then I've got like a synopsis of the whole thing, and then I like to, as I work on each chapter, I like to break that down and kind of use what I'm going through at the time to work on that. But that is really cool. I hope you'll share it with us. So I am starting with the single M-grams in this reorder. These are honey-based watercolors, so they use honey as the binder. So they sometimes have a tendency to not want to dry in your half pans, to stay really liquidy and very prone to just kind of making a mess. But it's a really rich, almost chocolatey brown color. That's what it swatches out into. You do get some granulation with it. Then I'll do the One Lonely HWC. And I really like this color when I'm painting like comic grass, where you want like that ultra green grass. Then we'll do the Lonely Core. What's it going to be about? What's your webcomic going to be about? Sorry. And this is Dioxine Purple, which is a really nice saturated kind of true purple. This is one of those purples you just can't mix. And I love having it in my palette, especially when I'm painting people, because this is one of those other two colors that I use a lot for skin tones. Then we'll slide on over to the Winsor Newton. This is their neutral tint. I actually use both Winsor Newton and Holbein neutral tint. They're slightly different. Holbein neutral, not Nutria. Holbein neutral tint is more like a nice indigo, like a denim-y kind of color, whereas Winsor and Newton's is kind of more of like a a shadow color. And this is one you can mix if you want to, but when you're painting loads of comic pages or lots of illustrations, having a good go-to shadow color is very handy. See, Payne's Gray is also a very easily mixed color. It is ultramarine blue and I believe burnt sienna. So it's very easy to mix, but it's so handy just to have it pre-mixed so you can just grab it if you need it, but you don't get all the lovely split color granulation either. So a tube of Payne's Gray, as you guys can see, you don't get like, so if you mix it yourself, you're gonna get the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna kind of sedimenting out separately, and it makes for some beautiful shadows. But sometimes you just want a flat color as a base. You don't want to have to keep remixing it as you go. Let me save the Rose Madder since that's a new one to me. And then Van Dyke Brown, which is a nice dark reddish brown. I use this for Kara's hair, so I go through a lot of Van Dyke Brown. And different brands for these like named colors like Van Dyke Brown or Sepia or sometimes Payne's Gray, they'll sometimes they'll be formulated slightly differently. So one brand might have a redder Van Dyke Brown than another brand. So, you know, sometimes it makes sense to have both in your palette. And then Naphthalide Maroon, which is another color I really use a lot for skin tones. Now I know Daniel Smith has the pigment info on them. Not seeing it on core, but it does at least list the, oh no, there's the pigment info, and it also lists the binder. Aha! Winsor Newton also has the pigment info, which I appreciate. Oh, there's some black in this. And what about Holbein? Holbein, so all of them have the pigment information listed on the side, which is nice. Human traveling to a world called the Void and his misadventures throughout it. Is it going to be more of like a Mushishi-esque kind of relaxing story where you have this person experiencing this world for the first time, but it's not necessarily, sometimes there's scary things, but it's not necessarily meant to be scary? Or is it going to be more like them trying to get back to the world they came from? Yeah, this is a really nice purple. Okay, so these are all the Lunar Earths. These are the, a couple of these are Primatex, and one of them is a Moon Glow, so it's a multi-granulating pigment. So Jane's Gray is a new one for me. I have admired the swatches greatly, and I use a lot of gray. I might have a gray addiction. But I have been told, and I've swatched it, oh, this is more like a neutral tint. Yeah, that's a lot more like, this is like Holbein's neutral tint, which is good because I think I was running out of Holbein's neutral tint. So this is a little bit warmer than their Payne's Gray. They being Winsor Newton. All right, time to try some new colors. So I'm gonna start with Potter's Pink, which, as you've seen in the paint box, Maddie is a big proponent of Potter's Pink. So it'll be exciting to see if the hype stands up to the real deal. Ooh, that does sound interesting, that he wants to be there, but there is someone or something forcing him, trying to force him back out, or trying to hunt him down, or is that too spoiler? So this potter's pink, maybe it's how I handled it, I don't know. Has some lovely granulation. You don't really see a lot of granulation with pink and kind of pink tone colors, but you get some really nice granulation with that. I wonder if this one, like Mayan blue, once you've set it up in a half pan, there's no rescuing it. I don't know, I have to find out. Next, I'm gonna try rose madder, and usually real rose madder actually kind of smells like roses, so. Oh, it does! It does smell like roses, that's lovely. And I believe rose madder is very, very fugitive. It does not like direct light. Oh, but you get such a nice opera rose kind of color going on. It's a shame. All those really beautiful, vibrant, kind of opera rose colors don't like direct light. All right, time for some super granulation. Ooh, no, all of these kind of exploded out of the tube. This one was real bad. I mean, they probably mailed it. It probably came via like an airplane. So I've noticed that when I fly with watercolor tubes that have never been opened, like if I go somewhere and I buy a bunch of watercolor and then I try to fly it back, this is often what will happen. I don't know if y'all can hear the dogs in the background or not. Those are not my dogs. Oh, that was smart. Hey, how are you? Oh, I feel that. Yeah, still feeling out the story and kind of outlining it and deciding where it's gonna go. To me, that's one of the funnest stages. It's like the sandbox stage where you just get to play around with the ideas. It could be anything. It could be any story. So that's moon. This is going to be moon glow. And most of the swatches make it look like it's one of those super granulating colors. So that'll be interesting. I hope it is. I think those are so neat. Sometimes they granulate a little bit better if you dab them into a puddle of water. I do see them already trying to separate out on my ceramic palette though. And I am starting to see some of the granulation in color there. Yeah, that's pretty. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to capture it really well, so I'm going to make sure I take photos of it and post them to Instagram as well. Sometimes the webcam just does not have the best fidelity. All right, so next is Amazonite Genuine. Ugh, can I talk? Sorry, Amazonite Genuine. Y'all ever get like that after like a good day, but it's a long day? Oh, it's always so amazing to me how one can take these beautiful earth minerals, be able to grind them down, which is almost a shame because they're so beautiful in their natural form, but be able to grind them down and then occasionally achieve really beautiful colors in watercolor. It's always like magic. I mean, I know it's just, you know, particles suspended in a binder, and then you use water to free them from their confines, but it's still really cool. And then we have Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine. So this is made with, I think it's like American turquoise too, because I remember the owner of Daniel Smith talking about, because one of the ladies at the, there was like a workshop. Ooh, there's some binder in there that I want to kind of remove a little bit of it so I can get a clean swatch. Because, you know, the binder does tend to, if it's gum arabic, yeah, see, it tends to be that like kind of gross color. One of the ladies was asking why it was so expensive. Because I guess to get a turquoise that pure, that you can grind it down and get beautiful color. And it, I don't know if this one is, what do you say? What do you say on here? Are you, I'm thinking opaque. Not light fastness, resistance to light. Not seeing the opacity. It wouldn't surprise me. It looks like, it kind of looks like a cobalt. Although I guess it would be, it's a little like a chilled out cobalt turquoise, and it's a little darker and more subdued. It's a beautiful color. Also kind of reminds me of like malachite in a traditional, like if you mix malachite and lapis in a traditional Chinese watercolor palette, you'd get a color similar to this. Oh yeah, this one was Amazonite Genuine. And see, my relationship with Primatak watercolors is real hit or miss, because like I've gotten some good ones, and then I've gotten some like that basically refuse to paint. Okay, so now I'm switching over to the Lunar Earth ones. And I know that Lunar Black granulates like whoa, but I want to change my water cup out because it's pretty gross. It's not going to give a very fair reflection of the colors. So I'm going to go change out my watercolor. And actually, before I do that, let me line up the colors. Hopefully, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know that you guys will be able to read them, but I'll read them when I get back. And that'll be easier for me to read them. But yeah, some of these colors are so beautiful, and some of the granulation is so nice. What are your favorite colors for a watercolor palette? Like, what are your, I have to have this. It is my favorite. I need it. And that leaves these two. So this one is Amazonite Genuine, and this is Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine. All right, I'm gonna go clean out that water cup and be right back. Any type of vermilion. So even the synthetic vermilions, I know Supervision offers a, I'm looking for it right now. I know Supervision offers a like genuine vermilion, but that's pretty toxic. So this is the Supervision Genuine Vermilion. But yeah, as like, it's such a beautiful color. It's so good for like tinting like blush on cheeks too, because it really feels like, you know, like natural and alive. Okay, so we have M. Graham Burnt Umber. We have Holbein Hooker's Green. We have Core Dioxine Purple. We have Winsor Newton Neutral Tint. We have Winsor Newton Payne's Gray. The same Van Dyke Brown. We have Daniel Smith Naphthalide Maroon, which I love. We have Jane's Gray. This is, now that I think about it, I have Jane's Gray in a half pan form. It's a really nice color. It's a warmer version of like a Payne's Gray, but a little lighter than a neutral tint. We have Daniel Smith Potter's Pink, which offers some beautiful granulation, kind of in the same vein as like a vermilion. We have Winsor and Newton Rose Madder, which really does smell like roses. It's lovely. We have Daniel Smith Moon Glow, which when you dab it into a wet area, you get this really beautiful diffused granulation. It is a beautiful color. We have Amazonite Genuine, which is this kind of like almost like a teal color. It's like a good Viridian. And we have Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine, which is kind of like a darker cobalt, maybe without the health issues. Oh yes, have to have a warm yellow. I could almost get away without a cool yellow, but a warm yellow is, I use that so much. Hey Dawn, good evening. All right, so we have the lunar colors left. I know for a fact that lunar black granulates like whoa. I've been told the other lunar colors do as well, but this is my first time trying them out, so we will, all of these just kind of explode on me. And then I gotta spend a minute to clean it. And then I get it all over myself anyway. Oh, watercolor. I was initially very drawn to it because I'm the kind of person who once I get something on, I used to do printmaking, and once I get something on my hands, it gets on everything. My face, my clothes, every other piece of art I've made ever somehow ends up with that on it. So I was drawn to watercolor because in general it is very, very easy to clean up, relatively low mass. But tonight I'm just getting it all over myself. Thank you so much. Yeah, the rose madder is a really nice color. Too bad it is very fugitive. But I mean, so is opera, so I think once you've just kind of accepted it, it probably photographs a whole lot better than opera though. I have the hardest time recording when I'm painting with opera and photographing the result after. And then scanning it, good luck. That hot pink color just skews the whole color gamut on my scanner. So it takes a long time to color correct. Okay, so that is lunar black, basically in mass tone. And this is a popular, the pigment for this, which is PBK 11, is a really popular one for like the Van Gogh granulating colors are like a base color, like a staining color, like a quin or a dioxine purple, and the PBK 11. So you could kind of make your own very easily by just mixing the two, either mixing them on your palette or, you know, mixing them really well in the half pan. So that is lunar black. Let's try out lunar violet. Paint in your hair. Oh my gosh, I feel you. Yeah, that is one of the reasons I was like finally done with acrylic in undergrad was, yeah, I would have like acrylic like basically in my mouth, which I don't know how that even happened other than I'm a little clumsy. Okay, so next is lunar violet. I need a studio space that has like just concrete for the floor. Like, don't give me anything nice, I will ruin it. cinder block walls. Don't give me anything nice. I'll get paint on it somehow. Oh yes, I think these are all gonna have really nice granulation. Especially when you just like dab it wet into something and you get kind of like this moody diffused. Okay, so this is using PV15 CL 77007 as well as Mars Black, which is what gives us Lunar Black. So I have a feeling these are going to be combo colors. I don't know, maybe not. This one is just hematite. This one is PB15 and then the PBK11. Interesting. And then this is magnesium ferrite with no PBK11. So two of these colors don't have any of the lunar black and two of the colors do. Use black watercolors or do you mix your own blacks? It kind of depends on what I'm painting. I don't mind using black watercolor. Okay. Sorry. No, I got loud there. I was not expecting that. Now, y'all can't see it, but I got a big old glob on the table. So like I said, it kind of depends on what I'm painting. I don't do watercolor for fine art. I do watercolor as illustration and for comics. So if I'm using black, it's because I want like the darkest color. I will generally try to work up to that by mixing black in with something first and doing like a lot of indigo and a lot of purple and maybe a lot of dark green and maybe even like some like myself mixed Payne's gray where we get like the burnt umber or the burnt sienna and the probably burnt umber and the ultramarine kind of granulating out from each other. So it kind of depends on the piece I'm making. But I really like these kind of special effects blacks because then it's not just like, I mean, if I wanted like a matte black, you know, that would work. I could use like a gouache for that and get like that really flat matte black. And sometimes you want that kind of look. But I really like all the texture that lunar black can bring. But if I'm painting characters, like their hair, I will generally kind of try to veer away from the crunchiness of lunar black unless I feel like it's really going to add something to their hair. When I was younger and in undergrad and taking an acrylic painting class, our professor was basically like, don't buy black, never use black, mix your own black. And I get where he's coming from with that because it gives you a more nuanced black. You can get something that actually fits the tone of the painting, and sometimes blacks can be very like just one depth. Although, you know, like a peach black is this warm black color, and then you can get like kind of cool blacks as well. So I think as long as you're like, it's something intentional, like that's what you want, and you're going for something that kind of fits the overall tone or mood of the painting, I don't think there's anything wrong with using a premixed black, especially if it's like something you've like specifically selected for that. Although I do appreciate when I'm reviewing sets that they don't include black because it's hard. I can't mix any of the other things I want using black. Like I can't mix skin tones. I can't mix hair colors usually. That's usually like all the way towards the end. Though you can use it for like a faux ink wash. And that is how black mostly gets used by me, is as a very easy fake ink wash. And it would actually be really cool to do that with the lunar black. Okay, so this is Lunar Earth. One of the, no. One of the two colors that doesn't contain any of the Mars black in it. Ooh, this gives you some really, that is Lunar Blue. And you get some really pretty granulation in that. And that's using a PB15 in addition to the PBK11. I appreciate that they didn't just add Mars black and we're like, that's it, call it a day. Like, I appreciate that some of these colors have their own unique granulating properties. I've been hoarding these, like, what I call special effects watercolors, because to me, with these, they granulate so much. I don't really want to mix them a lot. I want to use them kind of like as their own thing or like as a background or something. But if you layer them a whole lot, you can kind of kill the liveliness that they bring, or like save them for the very end. Right, so that is Lunar. Oh, and then we have Lunar Red Rock. Always replace it with purple, and the only time I use it is when I use ink. That makes sense, yeah. Because then you've probably already got like the black on the paper, so it doesn't feel like, because using just straight up black can sometimes deaden the piece, or it makes it feel flatter. But if you've already got inks, then you've already introduced that like black line art element. But I mean, I'm only speaking from like what I do for the most part, because like everybody's art varies, you know what I mean? Like I don't like when people say never never unless it's like gonna kill you, because you know there are people who can make it work for sure. And I also never want to discourage anybody from like experimenting and playing around, again, unless it's just dangerous or is just a total waste of money, and I know there are better ways to achieve what they're looking for. Some of these were fun. I've really come around to love granulating colors. I love, like, undersea green is one of my, I'm surprised I did not have to reorder undersea green, but that's only because I think I picked up a fresh tube of it the last time I went to the art store. Oh, sorry y'all, because it is this really beautiful, I can I can swatch it for you guys, give me a second, in my grody Daily Driver palette. And that's another thing I want to test, is how well these, like, how well can I re-swatch the new colors after they've dried out. Because I got burnt by Mayan Blue one time, and I'll remember that forever. If you dry it, you just bring a tiny tube of Mayan Blue if you love Mayan Blue, because if you dry it out, it's a clay, it will not reconstitute. Unless someone has come up with like a new formulation for it. That is undersea green. It's such a beautiful color. It's so, the camera cannot do it justice. I will take photos for you guys, but it's such a beautiful green. You get like green gold, you get some blue, like indigo blue in it. I love it for foliage. I use it for, well, so many things. And then I'll just quickly mix up a little bit of burnt umber with a little bit of ultramarine blue. Not enough umber. But that's like the traditional mix for Payne's Gray. And what's nice about this mix is you get some really beautiful sedimentation. You get both the, especially depending on what brands you use. So I like Sennelier's Deep French Ultramarine, and I like M. Graham's Burnt Umber. And they play together really well because you get the granulation from both. How often do I use granulate? I don't use them because I mainly draw characters. That's kind of where I fall into. Since I'm mostly drawing characters, the only times I really get to use granulating colors, I try not to use them because I do comics, so what I'm drawing tends to be really small. I don't like using them on faces because they have a tendency to kind of muddy the face when you've drawn such a small face because the pigment size is so large. If I was working big though, that would be really fun to do some fun misty granulating effects. I would like to start using them more often because I think like if you're painting, like my comic is set mainly out, like literally there is an exterior shot of brick in a lot of the panels. So like Potter's Pink and Lunar Red Rock could be great for painting stone or painting brick. I like granulating colors sometimes for clothes if I'm trying to like leather. This would really capture like that kind of look of suede. Or for backgrounds or for like special like glow effects or something like that. But yeah, I don't use them when I'm doing character art that often, but I would like to. This is aspirational. I'd like to start using them more often because they really add a lot, and that's something I feel like digital watercolor can't quite capture, is like beautiful random granulation. But I also like to do floral studies, and sometimes I like to do nature studies, and granulating colors can be a lot of fun for those. So I don't use them that often, but I'm working on it. And then also I do so many, I do like a million layers, right? And like granulating colors do not like a million layers. They will lift up, they can turn to mud on you. So I usually save them kind of for the end of the painting, or I kind of reserve that area and then come in and do it later, just because they don't layer super well. It's kind of like opaque colors. I usually save opaque colors for the end, just because they do have kind of a tendency to turn to mud. Aw, hi Mika. I don't know. I wonder that with Bowie too when I'm working on stuff. Like, what does his brain think I'm doing? Probably just messing around. Woo, it's about dinner time for me. But, so all of these are colors, these here are colors I use a lot in my watercolor comics and illustration. So I was re-upping those. And then over here, these are new to me. Although I have used rose madder in the past, it's just kind of expensive, so it's hard for me to justify buying it. But it's a really beautiful color, and I think this will scan and photograph better than Opera Rose, which is, I love Opera Rose, but it scans so poorly. And then these were new to me. I've used and enjoy Lunar Black, and these were new to me. And I love the granulation on the Lunar Blue. That's really pretty. So what I want to do is I'm going to try to set some of these up in half pans to see how well they reconstitute later, which I promise I will do that part off camera because that will take several days of drying. But it's definitely something you want to know, because I've tried to dry Mayan blue before, and it just would not come back. And there's a few other colors, but the Mayan blue really stood out to me because I asked the Daniel Smith guy, like, hey, what's up with Mayan blue? And he was like, yeah, it's a clay. It will only work from the tube. So now I include like half pan reworkability in my tests, because I work from half pans. I think a lot of people work from half pans or like re-wetting stuff, so that's important to know. So let me go grab those. I have these really cute clear Meeden half pans that I'm going to use for this. And do I have a permanent marker? Because that's kind of helpful. Usually what I like to do is I like to go ahead and label my half pans first and then fill them, because otherwise they are so tricky. And I could write it on tape. Aha, I have a gold one. That makes it fancy, right? Let me see if I can get you guys, yeah, closer to the actual action. Come here, friends. Ooh, that is almost illegible. Oh boy, yeah, I can't read that. That's okay. A little spritz of rubbing alcohol will make it like it never happened. Or not. What? Works for black? No. Oh well. Just have to be super dainty when handling these, I guess. How is it? I never have a Sharpie. Brand on the bottom. And oh man, that smells so nice. It really does smell quite a bit like roses. Set that aside. So I'm working on this month-long Instagram challenge thing where I am taking the information that was leaked, I guess, from Instagram about what they're looking for in terms of like regular updates. We're not talking about like what content they're looking for. We're just talking about like numbers and what format. And it's like if you're an artist and you're making things, it is a lot of work. A lot of like figuring out how you can record two things at one time. But it's been interesting. I'm feeling like I'm learning something at least, and that's always like a good buy-in for me. Even if we end up with no results or no like positive gain, it's always cool to learn something. Even if it's like, yeah, I don't want to do all that. That's a lot of extra work. I also want to put together, I really want to put together like a super granulating palette. But with a lot of these really granulating colors, you gotta use a lot of water, or you gotta blend them out or something. They've got to have room to granulate into. And they love rough pressed cotton rag papers. So if you are trying to use granulating colors and you're really kind of struggling to get them to perform, if you're using a hot press, there is nowhere, because the particles have to settle down into something on the paper, and a hot press is just like, I love hot press, but hot press is just flat. So there's nowhere for the particles to like go. And then if you're using a cellulose paper, I mean, I paint on cellulose papers pretty often, um, but you're gonna get better results from a cotton rag cold press. Man, I feel this hard to sit down and draw part. At least you're busy. Like you have a good reason. It was getting to the point for me with my ADHD that I could paint, but I couldn't draw. Like I didn't want to draw. I didn't have the focus for it. I wasn't coming up with ideas. So I feel how frustrating that is. I mean, at least with the busy thing, hopefully, when things kind of ease up, you'll just be like full of cool ideas. Sometimes it's like uncorking something and they just come pouring out. It's also important though not to be too hard on yourself, because if you burn yourself out trying to push yourself too hard, then it's going to be even harder to work. And I think you can be a dedicated artist and have periods where you can't make art for whatever reason. And I found the best way for me to recover from those periods is to just kind of be kind to myself and also try to consume a lot of media that is inspiring for me. So you guys are going to hear me talk about this a lot during streams, but I've started the manga Blue Period, and it's about this high school guy who kind of falls into deciding to become an artist. You have to read it. They do it such a good job with it, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but not only do they kind of talk about him exploring art and falling in love with art even though he'd like kind of dismissed it his whole life, but they also include art exercises and they explain things, and I really like it. The art's good too, but I like it best because they're educating us while entertaining us. Like the story is probably yeah, it's really good. I'm only on volume 1 because I'm reading it slow, because they also include all these exercises and then they describe what they're like looking for in the exercise, and I want to like I kind of want to put myself through an art boot camp. I say that often and sometimes I do it, but like I'm ready for art boot camp again, because I feel like when I had that like really bad ADHD fritz period where I just wasn't drawing, I feel like some of my skills have probably could probably use like some brushing up. And they really just like they spend a lot of time talking about how important doing still lives are, and I don't do enough of them because I'm like the girl who she just wants to like draw Bashoujo pretty girl manga. I'm like her. I just want to draw like what I want to draw, but still lives, the book does a really good job selling them. Not art block, but I don't draw or paint, and then I go ham and ruin my wrist. Oh man, yeah, like when the dam has broken, it's like all the art. For me, sometimes trying a different medium or trying a new craft or something can kind of help get me back in the groove again. Or even just drawing fan art for something I'm super into at the time. Now I noticed these larger tubes were not as prone to just exploding all over my hand as the smaller tubes. I need to fill out a library request form for that manga because I think it would be a really good addition. Oh boy, I feel that, yeah. Yep. That feels like, I feel you. That feels like the story of my life. I get this, I like come up with this concept that I really want to do either for the channel or just for myself. And I get really excited about it and I write like an outline. And then, yeah, depression hits hard. No, I really, you know, there's something very nice about drawing the same fictional character over and over and over again. It kind of becomes almost self soothing, like kind of meditative. Yeah, yeah, and craft stores tend to be pretty expensive for what they're offering, which kind of bums me out because for a lot of people, like craft stores are what you've got. I live in Southeast Louisiana, so we have David's Art Supply, but like that's like a 30-minute drive for me. The closest we have where I'm at right now is a Dollar General. So yeah, I feel that. But sometimes it can also be something simple like I'm gonna become really good at using spot black for shadows and for shading clothing, and I'm gonna do a bunch of studies on that. Like just kind of taking an art technique and falling in love with it and seeing how much you can do with it can sometimes be really invigorating too. I do wish you go when you go to other countries. Art supplies tend to be cheap, depending on the country too. Much cheaper to just cheaper to way more expensive. Kind of depends, but I wish art supplies were a little bit more affordable in the U.S. because they are kind of pricey for what they are, and if they could be offered more affordably, then maybe more people would be okay with like just enjoying art and making art as a hobby that they like. Oh, my little half pants. Oh boy. Okay, so the last thing I want to do, if it's cool with you, is I want to go ahead and add these colors to my swatch book. This would be Potter's Pink in here. So you are so welcome, Mercury. If there's ever a topic you're interested in, you can hit me up on like Discord or email me. I'm just, like I said, I'm ADHD, so like those are the things I remember to check. And let me grab my Discord link for my art server. You are totally welcome to join. Everyone there is super nice. But I feel ya, cause I had a very similar school situation. Grabbing a link. I also have really enjoyed this stream. It's low key and chill, which is good. And I kind of missed doing streams, but while I was like kind of battling ADHD this year, I just didn't have it in me to like, because I teach online art classes for my local library on every other Thursday. Um, and I just didn't have it in me to do like a Friday or a Saturday night stream. No, I love those classes. Like, don't get me wrong, they're the highlight of my week often, but they do take a lot of energy. So I'm hoping now that I'm trying something new that I'll have more energy to just like hang out and draw with you guys. had to think about it for a minute. My brain just went like, nope. Honestly, it was getting to the point where I was just so exhausted all the time that like I'd see messages on Twitter and stuff, and like it would mean something to me. Like I'd feel grateful, but I just would like not be able to respond, or it was really hard for me to respond. And that's not like an excuse, but I'm hoping I can kind of become who I used to be again. That's moon glue. If I was really organized, I'd write the pigment names and everything. Not there yet. I'm a work in progress. Where do I want to put all the lunar colors? I think I'm going to put all the lunar colors here. Have I already swatched lunar black? I have, okay. And Jane's gray, because these are from the half pan set. So I don't need to swatch that. It's lunar violet. But that's also one of the reasons that the ADHD is one of the reasons I try to champion people being kinder and more gentle on themselves. You know, I know everybody's got like life going on, whether it's school or work or freelance or just life. And I know online it can seem like you see other artists beating themselves up for not drawing XYZ amount or whatever. But we're all going through a lot this year, and I think just trying to be patient and kind with ourselves is the best way to kind of recover and build up steam again. Especially like if you burn yourself out, it's really difficult to recover from burning out. It's possible. People do it all the time, but it's really difficult to recover from burning out. And I think a lot of artists, myself included, we perpetually just barely recover from burning out, and then we push ourselves into burnout again because we don't take appropriate breaks. And for me, taking a break from art is hard because this is my, not only do I do this as a living, but I love it, and I do it for fun, and I do it for fulfillment, and I do it for enjoyment, and I love connecting with people through art. So like you have to physically remove me from my house and make me go be somewhere else. And I need to work harder on delineating those kind of boundaries for myself so that I don't burn out as much. Okay, so I'm gonna start picking up the ones that I've swatched so I don't go crazy. Because I've written their names on them, even though it's very challenging to see. I was hoping the gold would work because it would show up so well with some of these colors, but that's okay. And then unfortunately, we begin the ever arduous procedure of watching paint dry. Although this is the only one that's like pretty egregious. Oh, I should have swatched Rose of Ultramarine for you guys while we were talking about super granulating colors, because this one is ultramarine blue, and I don't know off the top of my head what pink pigment they use, but it granulates wet into wet so pretty. Ooh, Ooh, the jadeite green is really beautiful too, now that I'm looking at it. And green. I really need to make like a super granulating palette. The most self-indulgent palette. Okay, there's Amazonite. All right. And then after this, I will say good evening to you guys and go eat something. Probably ramen with an egg. Because that is what I have the energy in me for. And the egg's already done. Or I need to do a video just on something on just on super granulating colors, because they are really cool. That is for Winsor & Newton. Oh my, wow, the blues are like all the way at the front. Can I sneak it in there? It's a turquoise though. Okay, don't drip. Can I get away with putting a couple of half pans in as like a buffer? Kinda. There's something about swatching watercolors that is just kind of sleepy and so relaxing. Oh, and Daniel Smith makes some really nice blues. Especially that manganese blue hue. It's like sky blue. This one. And then, okay, so that's only gonna leave just, well, okay, yeah, all right, that's just gonna leave the Rose Madder Genuine, and that is in Winsor & Newton. Here I was feeling bad, like, oh, I'm gonna make them watch me swatch like 30 colors across 3 brands. No, just one more. I'm glad I tried the lunar colors. Those are cool. I hope they do some more of those. Sometimes I feel like for how small I paint, sometimes like Daniel Smith is like too granulating for me. Like, it's beautiful and I love their watercolors and I have a bunch of them because they make some beautiful stuff. But like, it's hard for me to like work it into my work because I'm like, oh, I'm working small. I don't want like, you know, the face having like uneven color without good reason. I also really like how many of their colors come from like natural sources. I think that's really cool. I have a lot of their Primatech colors because I just think that's cool. I collect minerals and crystals just because like I just have an appreciation for geology and mineralogy. And I think it would be really neat, and this is very dorky, but I think I might do it, is to do a display where I take like a sample of the mineral and then I paint a swatch with the mineral color and have that as like, oh, that's such a good idea for recording. Have that as my background. Oh, that's so cool. I need to write that down. Excuse me while I go over to Discord and take notes. me with my clickety clackety keyboard. I've had people tell me it's too loud, and it probably is, but it makes me feel productive. That's years of YCAT lab, which was like, oh man, our computer class, but it was on these very, very dated, like 1980s machines. So, you know, all the keyboards made the good click clacks. Do I have a pink section for Winsor Newton? I do not. You going in with the reds. See if I can get anything half decent out of what was left of that swatch. It needs a top off. Whew, now I feel like all chilled out. Like I could go take a That's good though. I think a lot of people are like struggling with anxiety right now. So if I can, hey, Joseph made it. If I can do anything to help people kind of relax and it be art related, you know, so long as people don't tell me to calm down my personality, we're good. Because that I've tried to do and I cannot do it. Oh, it smells so lovely. And this swatch book has been so helpful just for like helping me catalog. I have a lot of watercolors. I love watercolors so much. I use it all the time. I got a problem. If they have Watercolors Anonymous, I'd have to go because I definitely collect watercolors. And the swatch book is very helpful. But you can also definitely see like what brands I buy a lot of and what color families I tend to really like. And you can also kind of tell when I'm like looking for a color and I can't quite find it because I'll have like a bunch in that kind of color. Oh, let me see if I can find peach black without wrecking that. It's a Holbein color though. Oh yeah, Holbein's got some good blacks. So ivory black is kind of a warm black. Peach black is a little bit cooler. It's got some granulation. It's actually very toxic, so do be careful. And then antique black is, I don't know, more like an ink color, but you guys see what I mean. And you can even use like neutral tint or purple as black if you want. But but like we said earlier, if you're, hey Jill, good evening. If you have like already an inked line art and it's been inked with black ink, I feel like you've already introduced a black color element to your work. So if you want to use black, that's probably not going to be a big issue. And now the real trouble begins of finding somewhere these can dry. Actually, I have a palette I can maybe borrow for the just to protect it, because otherwise my Daily Driver palette is out all the time and it is so full of Bowie hair. It is gross. Let me move this. That's my other dream for when, after we buy a house, is I've probably mentioned this before, but I want to have one of those L desks and I want to have stations so I can just leave certain things up and just move the camera or something. It needs to be like on a track. I'm proud of you. Good for getting it. I know it's a butt kicker, and I'm glad you're doing pretty good otherwise. And the downtime for us was like 3 days. It hit Joseph harder than it hit me, but I'd also started trying Adderall that week, so I think the Adderall counteracted some of the shot until it ran out of my system. I'm so proud of everybody who goes back and gets the second shot, because that's apparently a problem down here. I mean, it's a problem across the US, but it's like a problem in Louisiana particularly. And then since the CDC has said to an extent that you don't have to wear a mask if you're outside and not in a large gathering and you're in a family group and you've had your vaccines, right? Like everybody in Louisiana has decided that means it's a no mask order, which is, I don't know, at this point I'm just kind of worried because I know younger kids under 16 can't get the vaccine. So it's kind of like, well, even if you're not, and a lot of the really older folks and the immunocompromised folks, they've already gotten both because they were early on and that was when they were really pushing it. So my concern is mostly for like the kids who can't get the vaccine, but we'll see. Could be a good excuse to lay in bed and watch TV. If you can, though. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and that makes it worse because you can't necessarily just recover. Me? Oh, yeah, because I'm just talking. I've basically wrapped it up. Oh. It's me! Big now. That's not weird. All right, well, I think that is all I've got. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This is a very enjoyable, very chill swatching stream. Yes, please. I'm so glad you can take it easy. Please do. What did I think of the Blick water? I haven't gotten the Blick watercolors yet. I've ordered them. I ordered them during the sale and they were back ordered. But my Daniel Smith classic set curated by John Cogley has come in because they were doing like a bunch of birthday sets and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's quite the way to sucker me in. So I haven't had a chance to try. I mean, it hasn't come in yet. It's been back ordered, but I'll let you know. I'd also like to try the Jackson's ones because Maddie swears they are really good and it would be nice to find a store brand that I could recommend to people. But I use the Blick gouache as like for white corrections and I like it just fine. And I used to use the Blick sepia watercolor when we lived in Savannah and I could just walk to Blick. Everybody jumped on that birthday deal. No, what I ended up getting gotta make the noises, that's the law. I ended up re-upping a bunch of colors I use all the time and then also getting some colors that are either highly recommended like Potter's Pink and Rose Madder or have like these really beautiful granulation properties like Moon Glow, or this is Sleeping Beauty Turquoise and that it's really pretty. And I also got some of the lunar colors. So like, you know, they have like lunar black. Well, they also have a violet, a blue, don't remember what you are, a lunar earth, and this is lunar red rock. These two are made without it using any of the PBK. So it would be really, I think it'd be cool if Daniel Smith did more of like the either not super finely milled or like hyper granulating colors for me to hoard because I can't use them. Blick's had watercolors for a while. Ooh, soapy. I wonder what they're using as their binder then. It's been a minute. What I remember is getting a lot of like gross gum arabic. So you basically have to like expel the tube first to get any paint. I've really fallen in love with super granulating colors. I haven't used them as much as I ought to. Because I mean, you know my art. It's kind of hard for me to work it in because like when you're painting teeny tiny faces, you know, you if you were doing like an 8 by 10 bust of someone, Potter's pink might be beautiful. Like might be a really nice way to handle blush. But when you're painting like an inch tall face, Potter's pink is gonna like look real weird. It's gonna look like freckles if you don't want it. And I'm still waiting on some more of the super granulating colors to come in from supervision because what I was kind of thinking is I was thinking these could make for, these two especially, could make, and well, this one too, could make for really nice backgrounds for comic panels where it feels like something's going on, but nothing's going on. I would just if there's like a soapy or a glycerin layer on top, I would just get rid of that entirely. Oh, I love undersea green, which is a very granulating color. It's one of my favorite colors. I have gone through many tubes of undersea green. I use it when I'm painting foliage. And I think like the lunar violet will work well for like sunsets and stuff. I do you have to twist my arm? Actually, maybe. I've been painting a lot of flowers, but I do. So, were you in the chat when I was talking about my idea for a new background when we have a place and I could actually do something with it? So, I was thinking it would be really cool to get some actual mineral examples of some of these stones like the Sleeping Beauty turquoise or Amazonite, or they have like amethyst, which I have, or like, you know, some of those, serpentine, and basically like paint a big watercolor square of that color to show the watercolor properties and then have it a sample of the mineral like in the frame. Sorry. I think that would be cool because it's like two of my interests in one place. And also, I just think it's so cool that you can take a rock and you can not any rock, like Kabocha has tried this, not any rock will do, but you can take good quality rock and grind it down to oblivion, and you can make watercolor out of it and it'll look beautiful on the paper too. Like, that's so cool. I mean I've known that for a long time, you know, but like every time I think about it, I think it's really cool. Right? And it's like nerdy in both ways. Like you've got the mineralogy nerd and you've also got the art nerd. My element coin series, oh, I'm seeing a trend. Maybe I can put some. I don't think we have any I don't know that I have. Maybe hematite would be the closest because we could do iron. Although honestly, there's so many iron oxides in paint. Oh, thank you. Now I just have to figure out what to do with these beautiful granulating colors. Okay, y'all. I'm so sorry. Hey, Rachel. I'm so glad you could make it. I'm tapping out for the evening. Um, I'm kind of hoping I can start doing the live stream, the art specific live streams again. I am starting a new old ADHD medication and my energy levels feel better. Like they feel like what they should feel like. I'm tired, but I've been up since 7. Like they feel like what they should feel like. Um, Ever since COVID, my energy, like quarantine, my energy levels have been really bad and I've been having a lot of problems with like fatigue and depression. So I'm kind of hoping that getting the ADHD part of that under control and giving my brain that extra stimulation will help me be able to do these things again because I miss them a lot. And I just didn't have it. There was like a period after Christmas. I hit this point where I was like, I just don't have it in me. Like, I'm not going to be able to deliver the kind of anything that I want to deliver. So it's better if I don't. Like with the chill streams, I have like other family members. They're kind of like egging me on. I'm sorry. It seems like 9 is better than 8. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind in the future. I was just kind of feeling out. I feel like we talked about that at one point, and it's been a while, so I've forgotten. I'm sorry. But anyway, Thank you guys. You know what? I will go over these colors since they've gotten so many compliments. I'll go over these colors with you guys one more time before I say goodbye. And that way, if you like what you see, you can order your own. Oh, the phone does not need to fall on the floor. I got these from Blick. I have no specific loyalty to Blick or anything. They just tend to carry a lot of everything and they tend to have really good prices. But if you've got a favorite art supply source that has better prices, by all means, go with them. Okay, so this is, oh, and it's a variety of brands because for these are some of my most commonly used colors when painting comics. So I was re-upping tubes that are long gone. And I just kind of go with whatever brand makes that color, and I like that, you know what I mean. Okay, so this is M-Grams Burnt Umber. This is Holbein's Hooker Green. This is Core's Dioxine Purple, and they make a really good dioxine purple where a little goes a long way. This is Neutral Tint. I don't know where it ran off to. Oh, here it is. It just doesn't look like it. Winsor Newton Neutral Tint. This is Payne's Gray, also Winsor Newton. Winsor Newton Van Dyke Brown. This is Rose Madder, which does smell like roses. It smells beautiful. It is very light fugitive. But I mean, shoot, there's no real good substitute for rose madder, frankly. Like, Quin Magentas are very Quin Magenta, and Opera Rose is fugitive and very Opera Rose. So, you know, I'm hoping this will scan. Sorry, I know I keep popping out of frame. I'm hoping this will scan better than Opera does, because Opera does not photograph well. It doesn't record well. It doesn't scan well. This is Daniel Smith Naphthalide Maroon. I use this all the time for skin shadows. It goes into pretty much every, if I'm painting skin shadows, it goes into like any skin tone. It is a real all-rounder. This is Jane's Gray, which is Jane Blundell's version of Payne's Gray. This is a lot like Holbein's Neutral Tint, which is a lovely color, and I really like it. So I guess you could get either of them. It kind of depends on what they're both, this one might be a little less finely milled than Holbein, because Holbein is like crazy finely milled to the point where the colors feel flat sometimes. So it's just kind of your preference in that regard. This is Moon Glow, and it has some gorgeous granulation. This is one where if you use it in mass tone, you won't be able to appreciate the color because there's no room for it to granulate. But if you dab it into just clean water, you start getting all these beautiful colors. This is Potter's Pink, which was highly recommended by Maddie. This is Amazon Night Genuine. This is Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine, and it is beautiful, but it is expensive, and a good cobalt turquoise is almost the same color and a bit cheaper usually. This is Lunar Violet, Lunar Red Rock, which is a really nice, what's in you? Yeah, red hematite, that makes sense. This is Lunar Earth, and look how much it granulates. Our old friend Lunar Black, and then Lunar Blue, which has this beautiful like a cool blue or a cerulean blue undertone, and then like a Payne's Gray overtone. That's really pretty. This is Undersea Green. It is not, I did not re-up it. I'm surprised because I use a lot of Undersea Green. But I was showing like how beautiful the granulation on this one is, because you get like a green gold and an indigo. And then there was another one as I was swatching them in this book that well, look, so many Daniel Smith colors have this like really beautiful granulation. I feel like I could do like a stream or a video just about beautiful granulating paints that I admire and struggle to use. Here is, I'm looking for one more. This doesn't do it justice. Rose of Ultramarine is another one of those where if you just dab it into wet water, wet water, wow. If you just dab it into like wet into wet, you get this really striking multi-chroma granulation that's very cool. Ultramarine red is not as impressive. You want rows of ultramarine because it's like they use a quin magenta with like an ultramarine blue. Very nice. And yep, that is about it. I think in the future when I figure out the meds and we start doing weekend live streams again, I'll try for 9 because it seems to work better for y'all, and I'll just like drink a Dr. Pepper at 7 or something. All right, so I mean they've got some really nice colors. They make nice paints. My only complaint with Daniel Smith is sometimes the particle size on the granulation is a little big for the kind of stuff I like to paint, because I paint those teeny tiny faces. And if I painted larger though, it would look really good. And they're so nice for like wet into wet because you get that misty granulation going on. And they're made in the US, so if supporting US art supply companies is important, they're one of the big ones. All right, y'all have a lovely evening. It was so fun hanging out with you guys and swatching watercolors, and I'm so glad none of these turned out to be duds, because that is always a possibility with granulating colors. I did put all of the new colors in half pans, because you never 100% know if a color is going to come back from a half pan. So I do want to test that out. You get burnt by Mayan blue once and you don't need to get burnt again. And I'll report back probably on the paint box and probably in a vlog. And I'm also going to post pictures of this on Instagram because my camera cannot quite do it justice. So yeah, y'all have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. For those of you who have finished up your round of the vaccines, I am super proud of y'all. Thank y'all for doing that. If you are unable to get a vaccine, I am pushing people to get them. So I'm trying to protect my friends who legitimately cannot. And if you're on the fence about getting your vaccine, please do. Especially if you're in the US and you're over 16 and you're able to, please do, so we can protect the people who cannot get the vaccine. All right, y'all have a great weekend. Bye.